This is our Wednesday night channeling, number 157, since we started counting. And tonight's class is called A Letter to Yourself. I almost didn't write it down, but I said, well, that's what came through, so I'll write it down. Some helpful counselors have their students write a letter to themselves. This could be helpful to some. It could start out, "Dear one, I love you, and my love for you grows with each passing day. I've also noticed that my love for life has increased. I am learning to think about the well-being of all life, not just myself. I love God and all His many manifestations. Dear one of this self, I am learning to love the opportunities that most call trouble and problems, for my inner eye is open more each day to see beyond the illusions and see the reality of my being beyond the mask I wear. Oh, joy to see the beauty and glory of God that dwells within me. I see you, God, peeking out from behind the mask that hides nothing from you. Each tiny experience of your presence within me fills this heart with joy and gladness. With each dawning that awakens the spirit of your love that my soul yearns for. I am the faithful servant of your being that shines the divine light, that shines your divine light that I am. I know that to give of myself is to give God to all life, that He is. The joy of my being that He is shines brightly for all to see His manifestation on earth as it is in heaven. Ben, Bob. Shall we have a quiet time before we begin? I forgot to do that. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, doesn't matter. As we close our eyes and allow the spirit of love to encircle this light, this circle of light, and to lift our thoughts to a much higher level, let us think of only this moment, this place in consciousness. Let us be aware of all those who are with us, who are not in the physical, our teachers and guides, those who have come to learn as we have come. Let us send them God's love, and let love fill this room and spread out over this planet. And let our hearts be filled with God's love. Thank you, Father. My little ones, it is with great joy and great love that I come to you this evening in this hour that you have set aside for coming together in spirit. You brought your bodies here, but you really have come together in the spirit of love. And in doing this, you have increased your ability to love. You have increased your ability to be a channel for God's love. When you give of yourself, You are giving life. You're giving God to life. When you give of yourself, you're giving to yourself, for you too are life. God's love is all-encompassing, all-wise, and all-powerful. It fills all of what you think of as space, and it is the substance of all that is. For God is love. And you, being made in His image and likeness, my dear ones, are love also. Think of yourself in this way, and it might be a good idea to sit down and write a letter to yourself now and then, but make it positive. Leave out all the so-called trouble and problems, and put in their place the answers, and let it lift you. Let it lift your spirit above and beyond this physical plane. Let God's love fill your being, and spend a little time that you cherish so in your days with the Father, the Creator of all that is. When you love God, when you love life, when you love yourself, it is good to set aside a little bit of your day to go aside from everything else and draw near to His presence that dwells within you. Let His touch of your heart be felt with the love that He has for you, and return that love often through the day. You might say, God, I love you. I love the life that you have given me. I love the life that you are everywhere present. I love the opportunities that are presented to me, for I know they are for my best good, no matter how they appear to be on this physical plane. This, my dear ones, is not praying amiss. This is praying by talking to the Father of your being, talking the language that He hears and is. Talk to Him often. Let it be a space filler as you drive your car down the road, as you go from place to place and doing different things that you do not have to concentrate on completely. And even then, if you let this become a habit, you will find yourself hearing yourself saying, God, I love you. I love the life that you are that dwells within me. I love the life that you are that dwells within all others. I would have you consider the recent war that you have gone through, even in this, love was expressed by not totally annihilating the so-called enemy. This may sound strange to you, but you see, those who give us these kind of opportunities are doing us a favor. From the earth point of view, this does not make logical sense, but from the point of view of why you came to this plane and what you came to learn, it does make sense. And these kind of experiences will continue to come about as long as you need them, as long as anyone on this plane needs them. Let us say that 50% on this planet do not need this kind of experience any longer, but the other 50% does need the experience of war or something like this. Do you not think that the 50% that knows God's love would be grateful to be a part of the experience for those who need it, because they love, they know unconditional love? As you learn to eliminate the selfish thoughts, and as your inhabitants of this planet learn to eliminate the fear that's called greed, it will be a step closer, or maybe a large step closer, to bringing heaven on earth. One of your commentators said that 20% of the people on your planet have more money than all the rest of the people on the planet. This is a lesson, and they have learned to manifest the abundance that is there. But it depends on their motive for manifesting this and what they do with the abundance that they have manifested. As you go through life, think of the abundance of God's love and the abundance of all the things that are here for your convenience, that were not here 100 years ago. Those of you who were recently incarnated may not understand this, but if you look back at some other lifetime, maybe in what you call the Dark Ages, when things were dark indeed on your planet, you will see that there is an abundance of everything for everyone who is open for it. When the ones on your planet go hungry, And through Donald's consciousness, I am picking up some recent news that some of you may have heard about how many children on your planet go to bed hungry every night. My dear ones, this is unnecessary. If you have charity in your hearts, and if all on your planet have a little bit of charity, and they would give of their life force to those in need, not just give them the food, but to help them to understand how to manifest their abundance. This is where your love, your unconditional love, comes to the forefront. And this is what divides those who are rising above this plane of illusion and those who are stuck in the mire of the illusion. There have been many who have demonstrated to you their love for humanity. And the one woman that you all know about that went about feeding the hunger all over the world dedicated her whole life and gave a demonstration to those who had eyes to see that life is for the giving as well as for the receiving. You see, life is a balanced exchange of giving and receiving. And when you learn to give that which you have with love and gratitude, it will be returned to you, multiplied many times. It might be easy for you to see this when you're thinking of love. But most on your plane are bound to the material things and are so bound to them that they cherish them above everything else because that's all that they know. But I tell you, many are awakening in your day. Many are awakening because the power of God's love is increasing on your planet very rapidly. And as it increases, those who know a little bit of God's love are increasing and accelerating, and their light is shining brightly. Maybe a few will see it and be affected, not with their physical eyes, but with the inner eye. Those who love God and love life, let their light shine brightly, because it is automatic. But when you write your letter, talk about loving yourself. As your teacher has said, writing things on paper can be more effective because you are then manifesting them in the physical instead of just fleeting thoughts in your mind. And it would be nice to write yourself a letter at least once a week. Some keep a diary of what is happening in their life, and a lot of it is negative, and it's just the happenings of their daily account. But let this be a letter to yourself, to that part of you that is God. Let this be a loving letter, a letter that demonstrates the real you, not the outer personality. The personality is something that you have built up over many lifetimes and carry it with you. And as you learn to raise your consciousness and as you learn to love more, this thing called persona, the mask, fades away and lets the light shine brightly. When you wear your mask, you cover the light, you cover the love. You're playing a role. But when you allow the beauty of God that dwells within you to shine forth and show His love by giving of yourself, by living the life of love, then are you fulfilled. My dear ones, you will never find complete fulfillment in the outer things of this physical plane. In your biblical story, when the illusionary entity called Satan took me upon the mountain and said, if you bow down and worship me, I'll give you all this. It was a story to help you to realize that the physical world has very little worth except for learning and growing. But as far as fulfillment, as far as feeling secure within yourself, as far as feeling love and security, the physical will fail you. Some of you have learned this, some of you have not. But you will learn. You need the physical, or you would not be here. You need it to learn that it is not real, that it is the height of illusion, and that the reality dwells within. The physical is the without, and will soon turn to dust and ashes. in your hands, symbolically, where you cannot take it home with you. When you return home to your real home on these higher dimensions, what will all these things that you work so hard to accumulate mean to you then? Where are your values? What do you give value to? I tell you, when you do leave this plane for a visit or a rest in between incarnations and come home, you will see more clearly. You will understand. And if you come back for another incarnation, most of you will turn off your memory of your understanding so that you can have the opportunity to try again until you come back and automatically see through the illusions of this physical plane, automatically know who you are. This is the day, this is the place in consciousness that you are reaching for, whether you consciously know it or not. Your love for yourself is your love for God and your love for life and your brother and sister and all the manifestations everywhere. Remember, my dear ones, that your planet is an entity just as you are an entity. Treat it well. Love it enough to eliminate the pollutions. You would not purposely pollute your body. Some of you do through the lack of understanding. But for the greed of money, your planet is being polluted rapidly. And this is the only thing, the only reason that it is polluted is out of greed. This is necessary, and the planet accepts it and has mothered you for much, much longer than you realize. Everything that you have for your physical body has come from this planet, from Mother Earth. Everything. And some of you give back, and some of you do not. Think on these things as you go through your incarnation. Think, what do I give value to? Do I give value to physical things that will soon turn to dust and ashes? Or do I give value to the eternal truth of life and to the love of God and the love of myself? Consider writing yourself a letter as often as you choose. And remember to write it in love, and you will find that it will help you to remember who you are. Shall we make a pause at this time to give you opportunity to ask questions?
And I'm questioned, but I have a statement in regard to this. Several months back, I tried this with my subconscious little self and myself, and it's quite effective. And I only did it once, but I can see where a person did this on a regular basis, or so regular basis, or whenever you felt the need to remind yourself of that. You very good.
Yes.
I wrote as my subconscious, and then myself writing to my subconscious to work some things out. And the subconscious I wrote with my left hand, and my little self I wrote my right hand. So I basically had two different penmanships within two different writings. That was effective.
Yes. When you are having experiences that go contrary to your wishes, and it is a conflict going on within yourself, you might write a letter to your little self or your subconscious and explain to it the real truth. Do not talk about the problems. Do not talk about the negativity, but talk about the beauty of life and the love for life and the love that you have for your total self, including the little self. Are there other questions this evening? Or statements?
My mother died when I was 3 years old, and I was taken away from her at birth because she was sick. So I never felt all of his love, and I felt very much cheated. But the other day, I talked to my little self, my baby self. I could feel my mother's love. I could feel myself snuggled up close to her right after I was born. I could feel that she was caressing me. She was running her hands over my head. I was holding my feet in her hands. And I felt very, very much loved. And that has supplied what I have been missing over the years. I think we have to go back to every section of our life and relive it as it should have been lived. And we will get the satisfaction and the love that we should have had, that other people didn't know enough to give us because they were too much into their own little hurt selves.
Yes, this is one way, and it works. And it was a good experience that you had.
It's hard to break away from your selfish self. It's hard to break away from your greedy self at first. But every time you do it, you get the flow back of infinite love and infinite power.
Yes.
A feeling of well-being that nothing else can give you.
And your memory of your mother's love for you, take it a little bit farther and think where this love originated that was channeled through your mother.
It originates from God.
Yes.
There is no love except that comes from God. And there is no love that you receive from any other person but that which is reflected from your own soul. And if you don't go to love yourself, and if you don't send that love out to others, like having your own hand open, you have no open hand to receive love from others. And life is like a revolving door. You get that which you send out with accumulated interest. Hate, if you send out hate. Love, if you send out love. And it seems so silly for people, for instance, who go out to dinner and wait for somebody else to pick up the check. They may save $2, but they might lose $250 by doing that. Because people remember what you are, what you represent, what you think you represent. And if you think you're saving, you're deluding yourself a great deal.
When we think of these things, when you can come to the place in consciousness where this kind of thing matters not, who pays the bill or who doesn't pay the bill, because knowing that it all comes from the one source, and that love is the key to all things. You see, you can grow one way and you can grow another way. You can take the long way around through the law of karma that you have set into being a long time ago. And it is a standard to go by, such as the Ten Commandments in the time of Moses. It gave the people a way of living that they could raise their consciousness. And those 10 Commandments are still true today. And the law of karma is here for your growth. But I say to you, when you can reach higher than the law of karma, by learning to love unconditionally everyone, including yourself, every experience, not thinking of the problems, not thinking of who said what or did not do what, but just loving and knowing the truth and holding your thoughts to that continuously, then you are no longer under the law of karma. When you start your day with love in your heart and say, "Good morning, God, I love you," or look in the mirror and say, "Good morning, God, I love you. I love myself that you are." And you can make this a standard to go by throughout your day, in your every thought, word, and deed. As you can learn to do this, then you have overcome the law of karma. And another way of saying it is you have overcome this world. And you're no longer bound by it. You can stay or you can go, and you can roam the universe and learn many, many things. But as long as you have that load, that heavy load of karma, What is karma? Karma is the memory of the past. Karma can be both positive and negative, both loving and fearful. Most think of karma as just the negative, and that it binds you to your thoughts, binds you to yourself and your thoughts of fear in the negative part of karma. And when you decide that you no longer need to fear, that you can just love, then you are not bound by it, and you are free. Are there other questions or statements this evening?
I have a question, and it pertains to whether or not my perception of the many layers of lessons that there were and still are in this recent war that we just all experienced. And that was that being Atlanteans reborn, where before we were the cause of war, that we prevented an even greater war from happening through this recent use of the technology that we have by minimizing the number of lives. Is that correct perception, or am I off base here totally?
In a sense, this is true. In another sense, if those who do not have the understanding that your country has, or the leaders of your country has, and has possession of this technology, they can destroy most of your inhabitants and a big portion of the planet. So it is good in one sense. It is much better to eliminate manufacturing tools of war. And when you get to that place where your fear of other countries, other people, is eliminated, then you will be free. Now, I did come to lay down a pattern for you, and I am speaking of the time when the world was against me, or most of the world, I should say, of that time and that place. I had no tools of war. I did not resist, but I did rise above it. And in doing this, I did not create any karma for myself. If I had resisted and did not allow the thing to happen that happened, I would be with you on a physical plane, working out my karma. It is better to lay down the physical life than to create even a little bit of karma, because then you are again under the law of karma. I did not mean to minimize what you were saying, because you are learning, and this recent thing that did happen is not finished yet, and the outcome will depend on the greed and or the lack of it in those who are in power. Can you see that the people who call themselves the Arabs for many years had very little of material wealth, and when they came into the oil wealth, then that gave them the opportunity to use it in a loving way or to use it in a destructive way. And this is why these many different experiences happen on your plane, and there are many, many more that you have not even thought of that can happen if your inhabitants need this experience. God loves you so much that he gives you every opportunity to take as long as you want to learn your lessons and to repeat them over and over again until you do understand the law of love. Did this help your understanding?
It does in a way, but another way it confuses me, and I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding on my part, but I was referring to the fact that this was possibly in a role of atonement now, instead of the warmonger, as, you know, and it's the word we describe someone that is aggressive and in a war situation and begins.
Yes.
You know, as far as the role that this country, and we've spoken about before that in many of the counties that we are a majority of those in this country are Atlantean Spring-born. And that's what
Yes, I understand. But on a broader scale, it can be looked at in a different way. When you come to the realization that life is eternal and that your physical body can be replaced very easily, and if your incarnation is cut short, it is cut short, and it matters not. But it matters greatly when you lift your hand against another, because you have set into motion what you call the law of karma. No matter what that other has done to you, when you resist the so-called evil, then you are putting into motion the law of karma for it to return to you. There's another saying that it takes two to tango in your words of saying, and it takes two to fight. And if one does not fight, then there is no fight. Of course, your Napoleon, your Hitler, your Saddam could wipe out all the people of the planet, could dominate them, but what would he have?
What he has now. Polluted earth, goat blood soaked earth. Not all of the people who have any more intelligence than he killed off. What's he living on? There's nothing there left that's worth anything.
Yes. But the other side of the coin, you see, is learning to not resist, learning to forego the resistance. This goes against the belief of your country that you feel pride in. Pride is one of man's worst enemies. You see, my dear ones, we are speaking from a much higher level than your physical understanding and your physical rules of living. And when we come together on these Wednesday nights, we have to, when we speak of these things, I understand what you're saying, my dear Josie, and I understand that it is an improvement, but I must take it a little farther and help you to understand the greater thing. You see, this plane is just a play on a stage, and it is as if one of your theaters, your favorite theater that you go to a movie, were to burn down. Well, there are other movies, there are other plays, there are other stages. It is much greater to allow your physical body to be destroyed than is much greater to not resist, to forego the resistance, and let your physical shell be destroyed. It is no more than someone stealing your automobile. If you were to catch the thief stealing your automobile, with your physical law, you might have the privilege of shooting them, injuring them, or even killing them, and not be punished from the physical point of view. But from the spiritual point of view, when you truly understand and love life, you do not raise your hand to another. If they need that lesson of taking your property, let them take it. For in the reality of life, it is next to nothing. And one of the lessons here tonight is to learn that to not give all of your energies and your attention to gathering things and money and wealth of this world to yourself. Take some time out to get acquainted with the reality of your being, the God within you, and to know the truth of life. And when you come back home for a rest, you will have a greater understanding, and life will mean so much more to you even while you're here in the physical. Are there other questions or statements this evening?
Yes, another. I guess this is a question. I had a friend of mine who wasn't in these, went through some bad times and everything. He didn't, like, I guess, can't believe in any of this. But I believe, I don't know, something happened, and then all of a sudden he was ready to change and ready to, like, start looking into himself and see why all these things were happening to him. And then all of a sudden this opportunity presented itself for him, just the perfect situation for him to go away and just to have the time and everything to look within himself and everything. So I was just wondering, this is like probably, I guess, I don't know if it's a question or a statement, that when you're ready and willing to do something, you see opportunities present themselves to you.
Yes. Always, always. From our realm, we watch over you, each one of you, much more than you know. And when you open to the light, we immediately see it. When you suffer and have pain long enough, and you decide there must be something better, I'm going in search of it, this opens the door to the light of understanding and to God's love, and it shows clearly. For your plane is a plane of darkness, and when you have come to this point, you have opened the door to light, and this light is seen very clearly from these higher dimensions. And we are there to help you in the best way possible for you as an individual. Does this help your understanding?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Did you choose to be a guide?
Would you speak louder so it would get on the tape, please?
Did you choose to be a guide?
Did I choose to be a guide? This body that you see is not the one who is speaking. I chose to serve God in whatever way that He dictates to my heart. I chose to love instead of hate and anger. Though I set the pattern for you to follow, I have gone through all the experiences that any of you here have. If I had not, I could not help you. And when I said I have overcome the world, this meant that I'd learned the lessons that this plane has to offer, and it has nothing more to offer me. And then I chose to be of service in whatever way I can for those who are open, for those who are ready.
It is spirit that leads to greed, is it not?
Yeah, they are both the same. Someone is thinking of the tape. Is it, yes. we'll repeat that. We'll get on this side of the tape. The question was, did I choose to be a guide? And the answer is yes. But we are all teachers and guides for each other. For whenever we look into another's heart, or to their eye, into their eyes, whenever you are around someone, you are looking in a mirror and seeing yourself. If you see a beautiful reflection, then it is the beauty of God within you that you are seeing. If you see negativity and ugliness, then it is the lessons that you need to learn. And most project it onto the other individual and say how terrible they are, when they are truly talking about themselves. When you react in a negative emotional way about what another is doing, be sure that that reaction is coming from your dislike of the same thing that is within you, even though you may not be consciously aware of it. It may not be exactly the way it was reflected in the other, but it is there. This is a hard lesson to learn, for most of us have been conditioned to blame others for our difficulty, and to even blame God. But God has given you freedom, and He loves you unconditionally. And this means no matter what you do, even the Napoleons, the Hitlers, and the Saddam, He loves equally as much as He loves you. For truly, all of these roles that all of you are playing is just an opportunity to learn and to grow. Some in this room find these statements difficult to accept, but if you will try to keep an open mind and to not close your mind to it, but just leave it lay, and someday you may see the truth of it. You will see it different than anyone else sees it, because we're all different individuals, expressions of God. And this is one of the joys of life. It would be very dull if we were all alike, would it not? Are there other questions this evening?
Yes, I have one more question. Could you elaborate on it a little bit more? You were speaking before on how great is the cause of the pollution that we have now on the planet. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yes. The oil has polluted your planet much, has it not? And especially in this recent war, it is doing much damage and pollution to your planet in a physical sense of seeing it. And it was the greed of wanting to have more power, to have more oil, that started the war. And when one is enveloped with greed, it does not stop with 100 billion or 500 billion or whatever amount. It just continues to grow because you see it does not fulfill them, and they see no other way to be fulfilled, and they continue to reach out for more and more, trying to fill that empty place within themselves, for they do not love themselves. They do not know what love is, and they try to find satisfaction and fulfillment from outer things, things outside themselves, physical wealth, physical power, fame, this sort of thing. We all will have similar opportunities unless you learn through wisdom. Did this help your understanding?
Yeah.
When you think of your physical life, one of the things that you think of, unless you have retired from the world in the sense that you call retired, and have the income to sustain you and are satisfied with it, more or less, one of the things that comes to mind is gaining more wealth, making more money, gaining power in some way to fulfill that need within you. And if and when you can come to the understanding that this will never satisfy that inner need. Yes, you do need to sustain your bodies. You do need to house them and clothe them. It is a part of the play that you're going through, and it is a big part of the lessons to learn on this plane. But it depends on the degree that you reach out and that the time and energy that you put into making more and more wealth and power. This is the gauge. If you spend no time going within to visit your Creator and to learn to love and to have that rapport with the God within you, then you can have the wealth of the whole world, and it means nothing to you. For this plane is truly a plane of illusion, and it will not fulfill that spiritual need that is within you, because truly, my dear ones, you are spiritual beings. You are not physical beings. And when you learn to understand that your true nature is what you call spirit, your true nature is eternal and cannot be extinguished, then you can eliminate the fear of lack. And if you have a little more than you need, you can share it with those who may be hungry. And if you want to take a little bit of your time to show others how to provide for themselves in a physical sense, then you are giving yourself to love and to life. And some of you know one who has recently done this by going to another country and giving of themselves to help those who need larger understanding to provide for their physical needs. When one is hungry or in pain, it is difficult for them to think of spiritual things. And so when we give up the greed of thinking that we have to have billions and billions of dollars and share the wealth, not just of money, but of understanding, of knowing how to provide for your physical needs, then the door can be open to the spiritual understanding. But as long as man is oppressed and held in bondage through hunger, actual physical hunger, malnutrition, then they may be denied the opportunity for spiritual understanding. In a few cases, this brings about the spiritual understanding. Are there any other questions this evening?
I have a question getting back to the pollution of our Mother Earth and those things that nourish us. A friend of mine was just recently told that he could go ahead and eat the red meat, even though that we treat our animals with hormones and chemicals and all of those kinds of things, that as long as he blessed the food, that it would be okay for him to eat it. Is this true, or is this only true for those who don't believe it?
There are more than one way of looking at this. There are many who do not eat animals for their love of life, and that is their reason for not eating flesh. Through the years, you have grown crops such as corn and wheat and crops of animals to nourish your physical body. And it is not whether you eat red meat or not. It is how you feel about it. You see, Take your ocean. It is filled with fish, is it not? And how do the fish nourish themselves? Some nourish themselves on plants, but most nourish themselves on smaller fish. And there is always an abundance of the smaller fish. And you see, there is a saying, if I can find the words in your language to express it. When one gives of himself to save another, or to save is not the correct word because of your misunderstanding of this. When one is given of himself to help another, whether it is nourishment or whether it is whatever it is, that is part of your physical plane and your physical makeup. And as you've been told many, many times, this, after all, is just a play on a stage. It is illusion. And it really matters not how you nourish your physical body, but it is your motives, your thoughts about it. Some of your cultures in your world who live on meat alone, they explain to the animal their needs, and in a sense they pray to them and explain that they are giving their life to nourish them, and they love their animals that nourish them. For example, when the white man came to this continent and killed off all the buffalo just for the hide, he took away the nourishment and the way of living of the American Indian. The American Indians had a great love for the buffalo, and as one who has recently said, who was just gathering the bones to sell them to be ground up for fertilizer, was an older Indian, and he explained to the other, the buffalo is one of my greatest friends. For when I came from my mother's womb, I was wrapped in a buffalo hide. And when I grew older, the buffalo furnished me the nourishment to feed this body. And when you think of things in this way, realizing that there is no death, loving life, and loving yourself, then your motives are in alignment with the laws of life. Do you understand?
The vegetables have a life too.
Yes.
The fruit has life just as much as the animals have life.
All have life. And you see, there is no extinguishing life. The lower life gives itself to the higher vibratory rate of life to be expanded.
And we have no right to be guilty then.
No. You have no right to be guilty. When you mistreat life, when you let things get out of balance, then have you gone against the grain of life? And if you want to go back to the father's point, you go back to the Garden of Eden story, where everything was in perfect balance, and they ate of the fruit of the trees, except the one tree, and that was the knowledge of good and evil, or duality. They had no concept of evil, or whether it was right or wrong, to eat this or to eat that. So they had no way of feeling guilty or shame about their bodies until they took this concept of duality into their consciousness. And this is the larger story. We have covered much this evening, and some of you have been overfed in a spiritual sense, and it has been a great privilege to share with you God's love and light of understanding. And I ask that you take this love and the light of understanding and let it heal your misunderstanding of life. If you do this, your physical bodies will be healed of any dis-ease. Your minds will be healed of any fear, and you will rise above the illusions of this world and be free as you are intended to be. God blesses you, each one. I love each one of you dearly, unconditionally. God bless you, and good evening.